US President Donald Trump announced new tariffs on 60 countries that the US claims failed to properly stop forced labor. A number of wildfires continue to burn across much of southern Europe, with high temperatures and strong winds fueling the blazes.
US President Donald Trump threatens to use frozen Iranian assets to pay for damage to ships and cargo in and around the Gulf. Ireland said it has found no evidence to determine that its alumina exports to Russia contributes to Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
US President Donald Trump announced new tariffs on dozens of countries that the US claims failed to properly stop forced labor. The new duties, which range from 10 to 12.5%, will replace global tariffs that rolled out earlier this year and expire on Friday. The tariffs announced on Thursday will affect 60 countries, including China, India, and the European Union. Together, they account for 99% of US imports. Trump had already imposed double-digit tariffs on almost every country in the world last year, but the Supreme Court ruled in February that the US president did not have legal authority to do so. As a result, the administration had to pay refunds, and instead Trump announced temporary tariffs of 10%. These have now expired and will be replaced with the new tariffs. The decision has already drawn widespread criticism from impacted nations. However, the new tariffs are considered more resistant to legal challenges than the previous. A number of wildfires continue to burn across much of southern Europe, with high temperatures and strong winds fueling the blazes. Spain has declared a national emergency over wildfires threatening the Madrid region. Authorities said on Friday morning that some fires remain out of control, although emergency crews have reportedly been able to somewhat limit their spread. Thousands of people have been evacuated from the region. Meanwhile, France has asked for help from the European Union and has requested the activation of the bloc's civil protection mechanism. French President Emmanuel Macron said the situation remains tense, especially in the region of Gironde. And in Italy, thousands of emergency responders, including firefighters, forest guards, and civil protection officers, have been battling fires on the island of Sicily. As of Wednesday, wildfires have burnt over 250,000 hectares across the EU since the start of the year.
US President Donald Trump has threatened to use frozen Iranian assets to pay for damage to ships and cargo in and around the Gulf. Trump wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social, that, quote, any and all damages done to ships, cargo, or anything related thereto will be paid for by Iranian money that the United States has in its possession and controls. In response to Trump's statement, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Friday the seizure of the assets to pay for shipping damage was, quote, an incendiary precedent. The latest exchange comes as the U.S. launched a 13th consecutive night of strikes on Iran, targeting military and commercial sites. Iranian state media reported explosions in the port city of Bandar Abbas, a key hub for military supplies and trade cargo, as well as on Qashm Island, home to naval assets capable of attacking vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. For Iran's part, Iranian state TV shared footage it claims shows missile launches at targets in the Gulf region. Meanwhile, as Washington and Tehran continued their standoff over the Strait of Hormuz, a new front emerged in the region with Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis threatening to shut down another key trade route. Ireland says it has found, quote, no evidence to irrefutably determine its alumina exports to Russia contribute to propping up Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In a statement released on Friday, Ireland's Minister for Enterprise, Tourism and Employment, Peter Burke, stated this. It comes amid an international spat over an investigation published by the Irish Times earlier this year that suggested output from the Harnish alumina plant in Western Ireland was sold to a trading house that supplies a major military industrial hub in Russia. The ambivalent conclusion had been previewed on Thursday by Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin during his visit to Kyiv. The internal probe, which looked into corporate data, trade flows, media reports and information provided by the Ukrainian and Swedish governments, has been shared with the European Commission for its consideration, the minister noted. Virtually all alumina sales from the EU to Russia come from the Henish Alumina, a sprawling Russian-owned refinery in Western Ireland.
The future euro banknotes are taking shape, and this time European citizens themselves will have a say. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde unveiled the 10 shortlisted designs on Thursday, from which the new banknotes will be chosen. From more than 1,200 proposals considered, 2 broad themes ultimately emerged as the strongest ways of representing the continent's identity. One focuses on figures who have left their mark on the history of art, music, science and literature. The other features rivers and birds as symbols of Europe's biodiversity and the need to protect it. Should the cultural theme be selected, the new banknotes would feature some of the most influential figures in European history, including Leonardo da Vinci, soprano Maria Callas, Nobel Prize winner Marie Curie, and Beethoven. Should the nature theme be chosen instead, the new banknotes would depict several European bird species, each shown in a river landscape alongside major European Union institutions featured on the reverse. EU citizens will be able to express their preferences between the 2 themes through a survey on the ECB's website. Once the winning design has been selected, the ECB will proceed with the technical stages required to produce the new banknotes, which are expected to enter circulation from the end of 2026. Activists behind the far-right Save Europe Act campaign are taking the European Commission to court after it refused to register a petition calling for a suspension of legal migration channels and the remigration of legal third-country nationals deemed unintegrated. The Commission rejected the initiative on Thursday, arguing it would discriminate on the grounds of race and ethnic origin and was therefore manifestly contrary to EU values. Austrian activist Martin Schellner, the movement's leader, told Euronews their legal team is ready to file a lawsuit as early as Monday. The petition calls for a temporary suspension of non-Western immigration channels, including study and family reunification visas, and the return of legally resident non-European nationals considered a serious cultural or financial burden. The campaign is backed by nationalist figures including Hungary's Viktor Orban, Spain's Santiago Abascal, Romania's George Simion, and Italy's Roberto Vanacci. While European citizens' initiatives require 1 million signatures from at least 7 member states to be considered by EU institutions, the campaign says it has gathered nearly 600,000 signatures informally. Welcoming the rejection, Greens MEP Cristina Guarda described the petition as hate propaganda promoted by the far right.
The United States and Saudi Arabia have signed a nuclear agreement that would allow the kingdom to develop a civilian nuclear program. The Trump administration hasn't released the details of the deal, but the framework would give Saudi Arabia the ability to enrich uranium through its own facility. The agreement was signed alongside what they say are bilateral safeguards against non-proliferation. In a statement, U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright noted that the highest standards of nuclear safety and non-proliferation would be upheld. Uranium enrichment can produce fuel for nuclear power plants, but the same technology can also be used to build nuclear weapons. Because of this, US lawmakers from both parties have voiced opposition to the idea of a civilian nuclear project for Saudi Arabia. The deal, which still needs to be sent to Congress for review, is expected to last 30 years and would involve using American technology to develop the program. The deal reportedly does not include the International Atomic Energy Agency additional protocol, which would allow for more monitoring, inspections and verification.